Hi, and welcome to the Bards on the Margin video development log for our fantasy scene generator. Here, what I'd like to talk to you about is a tool we're making for our own productions, whereby we can create a scene, drop in some characters, and voila! Have a role-playing encounter in virtual reality. And also the hope is that once all this is done, you too can be able to use this for your own tabletop RPG games. So where are we and what is all of this? Well, this is a randomly generated terrain from procedural worlds. I'll leave some links below into all the assets I'm using. And as you can see, they do a great job of making a nice, dynamic, and realistic looking terrain. This in particular is from their Desert Biome series. And we got all kinds of spawned in objects and items to make everything look interesting. But that's not where all the magic really is. What we have now is if you right click on the ground with our little decal highlighter, you can pick a spot and then release, and there you go. You get a menu where you can drop in some assets. I don't have a lot enabled at this point, but we got a few things we can show here. There you go. A nice, wonderful beast of an ogre, all in high resolution and detail. These are from Polygon Maker, also on the Unity Asset Store. And I got a lot of these guys eventually to populate, but for now I'm just keeping it simple and just have a few things to show everyone. Here we'll bring up some more. Here in the friendly department we have a knight with a mace. There we go, good old traditional knight in shining armor. A bit of a green tinge. Oh well, look at that, into that later. And as you can see here, we also have a highlighter. So you can select various characters and items in the generator. Eventually, with this, you'll get up more menu options for what to do with them. But for at least now, it's just keeping things simple. We also have, here, let's bring up another guy because I got a little bit more enabled on, of course, the ever classic goblins. A green goblin, no less. And there he is, highlighted in a nice little red to make sure you don't mistake him for a good guy. But that's not all where it ends with him. We can now, if we right click, we can select a different set of menu for things he can do. And there we go. Look at him picking over the corpse of your dead body. And yeah, so that's kind of where I am at this point. The menu is not complete. If we try, I got some issues to work out. If we try to pick an action again, kind of nothing happens. I believe if I work at it enough, I can make him die. No, maybe it's here. There we go. Boom. He's dead. But yeah, so what's happened with the menus is I'm actually using a drop-down list to create the menus, and it's just not working out for me. I'm finding it hard to get it back to the same state to make everything repeatable. The controls aren't what I'm looking for, and I thought I could try to skip out of using Unity's built-in UI assets because I find them kind of clunky and difficult to work with, even though I've bought in a better set of assets for it. I find they're now still clunky, and I don't think I'm ever going to get out of it what I want. So I'm going to rebuild the menu system, going back to basics with Unity standard assets. So now just have a quick look at the code of what I'm doing in here. We'll go to our ground highlighter script, and this is the main working engine at this point for the user interface. And so for the highlighting, what I have is just doing a ray cast out from the center of the screen, and then if I hit an object, I check to see if it's one of the highlightable objects, and then if so, if we're already highlighting an object, disable it, then record the new highlighted object and enable its highlight. And then down here, if we hit anything other than a highlightable object, disable any highlights, make a note that we're no longer highlighting anybody, and this CM is my character manager singleton to keep track of the state of the highlight, of who's being highlighted. Next, just below that, we have the controls for the left and right mouse button. Here is for the left mouse button where we set the decal onto the ground. First here I'm calculating the range to the point where we're clicking at, and then enable the range display. Put on top of that, I then move the decal over the position where the mouse is pointing and turn on the decal so everyone can see it. The thing to note here is what I'm not doing is changing the Y position of the decal. Right now my decal is a very tall object high up in the sky, and I keep it up in the air so that when it points down and casts the image or projects the image downwards, it's on top of anything you see in the scene, so it doesn't get buried or hidden under bumps or objects in the scene, to keep it nice and visible all the time. And then now in this section of code, this is for when the mouse isn't being pressed, but we still have our decal active. So that means the player has now just released the mouse button in this frame. So we check if it's a left mouse button. Stuttering there. We move the player character to the point that they're pressing. I mucked up. And if it's a right mouse button and we're the host or server, then we can enable the Game Master options, which if you're just pointing at the ground, we activate the asset spawning menu, or if we're pointing at an object, then we activate the animation and poses menu. Eventually this will go into actual character actions of attacking and moving and things like that, but that's a ways away yet. And then here, just the other important thing to keep track is once you do all of that, once you have the menus up on the screen, you have to disable the first person controller and re-enable the mouse cursor so the player can now interact with the menu. Otherwise they get locked out and very frustrating. And then finally down here, because this is the releasing, lifting the left or right mouse button, we disable the range display and the decal to keep our screen nice and free of clutter. So here you can see the decal has a nice clean shape. It appears over objects when you pass over them, on top of objects. For now, it's not appearing under these cacti for some reason. And I suspect it's because they don't have colliders on them. I haven't had a chance to look into that, but eventually I'll have to sort that out. Don't think that's a big deal. Anyways, there you go. So that's what we have so far for the fantasy scene generator. And hopefully after this I have a menu redo to go through, and I'll get into some better functionality and have more to show you in the menu department on the next update. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and leave some comments of anything you see here, and in particular if you have any suggestions on what to do or easier way to do things. I would certainly appreciate that. I'm no expert in Unity by any means and can use all the help I can get. So thanks a lot, and until next time, keep rolling.